Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgeniya and in this video I want to present to you Ukrainian knitting patterns available in English, and most of them are available for the purchase on Ravelry. This video is existing thankfully to one of the comments that were left under my Japanese knitting designers. Thank you very much for your suggestion. It's even more exciting for me to record this video because I'm Ukrainian myself, and of course I'm extremely pleased to highlight some of the talented designers from my own country. I will be creating a part 2 of Ukrainian designers because I cannot fit them all in just one video. So if you want to see the part 2 of such video and you want to be notified when it's out, you can subscribe to my channel and press this bell notification button so you're gonna be notified when it's out. Before I begin, as usually, I will say that these are not random designs from the internet, but my favorite designs that I would knit myself. In every single pattern roundup, I'm not just randomly mentioning anything. It is something that would cast on immediately if I would have the entire time in this world for myself. As I usually do, I am paying a lot of attention to the yarn choice, so I'm going to speak about recommended yarn by the designer, and since a lot of the yarns are maybe not available worldwide so much, I'm going to speak about my own decision, which yarn would I use, and I will pick up the yarns that are available worldwide. So the first pattern I want to speak about is Arabesque Cardigan by Natalia Aksyonova. Since this pattern came out, I was so much in love with this. It is something I love a lot about sweaters and cardigan, where you have minimalistic, perfect fit. It's very wearable, very basic, but then there's some one or two details that are popping up. In this case is the sleeves. We can see that from the shoulders, there is an intricate cable pattern that goes all the way down to the sleeves. And I really love the color choice that designer picked. Is this very milky, creamy beige. I think it looks wonderful. It is knit top down as a contiguous shoulder construction with a neck depth. So when I mean the neck depth is when at the back of the cardigan, we will have a little bit of a depth, like half rounded thing. The construction is a top-down contiguous shoulder construction that most of us are aware of or even knitted before. So you cast on stitches at the back of your neck, you do some short rows to create the neck depth, which I really love. Then you do the contiguous shoulders, basically when you add stitches to the back and to the front at the same time. This is like, some people call it saddle shoulders, but I think it's called contiguous shoulder construction. And after that, you already work in the sleeve while increasing every time for the sleeve, as we're doing in normal raglan shaping, and already adding stitches for the v-neck as you're forming the whole cardigan. So right when you're done with this, you're splitting for sleeves, you're knitting down flat, then you're doing the sleeves and the round as we usually do top down. The only thing I don't know is if you're knitting the button band together with the cardigan or you're doing it separately. I have a feeling that you might knit it separately, or if you're knitting it together, that's even better. So the yarn mentioned is sport weight plus lace, and in the end it should form you DK or heavy DK weight. The gauge is 18.5 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the whole garment is knit on 5mm needles and 4.5mm needles, plus 3.5 for the ribbing. So I imagine either the body or the sleeves are knitted on different needle sizes, which makes sense sometimes. So the yarn is used is the English yarn, which is possible to buy at least in Europe, which is Knoll lamb's wool. This is 100% lamb's wool, which is a merino wool from little sheep up to 1 year old. So it could be soft, but to be honest, I've never tried Knoll yarns and I cannot say how rustic it is to the skin. It depends a lot on the sheep breed and spun and everything. However, it's a cardigan, so I would risk and I would use Knoll yarns. So then you pick another thread of your favorite silk mohair, depending on your preferences, softness, and the budget, and we're ready to knit the cardigan. The next one is Vinca Sweater by Natalia Pelykh. This is very recent publishing. It published in January 2025, and I'm shocked how much I love this design. It is quite oversized sweater, knitted on 3mm needles with this complicated but still not so busy stitch pattern. From far away, this stitch pattern blends quite a lot and looks like, some structure that you can't really tell what it is. So it's not so busy to the eye, but once you get closer, you actually see that it's cables that are crossing each other in a very beautiful way. I can't even tell what it reminds me of. I'm just loving it. There's something about it. And it's knitted with one of the yarns that became quite famous recently, which is La.Na.Knit. I said that I wouldn't like to pay so much for the merino wool, but to be honest, for this specific sweater, I think I would buy the yarn and I would love to enjoy it because La.Na.Knit is a very fluffy carded merino wool that is super fine. I think it's 8-ply wool. It's a German brand and they kind of have their own technology of spinning and producing the yarn. So in the end of the day, you have a very lightweight garment. In this pattern, the yarn weight is mentioned as a DK, but I think it's a sport weight because La.Na.Knit itself sometimes described as a DK weight, but in my opinion, I think it's still a sport weight. And this sweater is knitted on 3mm needles, which is perfect for this yarn. So I don't think it's a DK weight. The gauge is 40 stitches per 10 centimeters in the stitch pattern. So I think it will take you some time to knit, but if you pick some nice special yarn to work with and you take it slow, relax, and slowly knit on this object, I think it could be really nice highlight in someone's knitting journey. Specifically, I would really appreciate this garment in my wardrobe. I would knit this sweater in the light color. She knitted this in gray. I love it, but I think I would pick some light creamy color to highlight the cables a bit more and to see the structure a bit better. So while this sweater is quite oversized, it is still possible to choose your own preferred positive ease because this designer usually does all ranges of sizes. I love when they do it so much. So you basically have kids, female adults and male adults covered. I want to mention that at least until now, I didn't see designer posting finished measurement of the garment and, measurement of the armhole depth and so on. There's no like centimeters mentioned. The designer only puts like European sizes 32, 36, 38. And I reached out to her once and I asked where can I see the finished measurement of the garment because I wanted to knit one of her sweaters. And she said that all of the finished measurements are mentioned in the pattern. So as you purchase the pattern, you will be able to see this technical drawing or charts of the sweater where you can see all of the finished measurements. So I guess it shouldn't be a problem. But of course, I would love to see finished measurement on the Ravelry page. That would be super helpful. And especially like Japanese and Korean designers do, they usually put a sweater drawing with all of the circumferences, the widths and the lengths of every piece of the garment, including the back length, the front length, everything is differently mentioned, which helps quite a lot to understand, the entire fit and so on. So that's clarified. So this sweater is designed as mostly Japanese and Korean patterns. It's a drop shoulder knitted top down. You start working the back yoke, casting on stitches for the neck, and then increasing or doing short rows. It's not mentioned for the shoulder slopes at the back of your yoke. And when you're done with that, you're going to pick up stitches for the right shoulder, going to the front line while making at the same time increases for the neck. And then you're doing the same for the left side. So when you're done increasing for the neck, you're going to connect stitches for the neck and work the front yoke to the armholes. After that, you're going to connect back yoke and the front yoke together, knitting everything down. Then you're going to pick up stitches for the sleeves, shape with the short rows the sleeve cap, which is insane. Thank you for that. And then knitting the sleeves top down. So when you're done with the whole sweater, you're picking up stitches for the neck and you're having a neckband, which I imagine is knitted in double knitting or in double layered stockinette. That gives you a very thick this cord in between the neck and the body, which first of all with time provides some structure and the neckline itself is not like stretching out so much, but at the same time it adds some detail to the design because also at the arms you have like this little seam that shows up and that correlates somehow with the neckband together. And the last thing I want to point out, I just noticed how after all of these cables are done in the bottom of the body, they're blending into the 2x2 rib. Perfect match is freaking perfection. I really love that. The next pattern is Zipper Vest by La.Na.Knit. This is a pattern that could be knitted as a vest with a zip or a sweater, which is incredible, right? We don't need to purchase two patterns. The whole item is knitted on 3.25mm needles and is knitted in half fisherman's rib, which does take quite a while. The gauge is 22 stitches and 45 rows per 10 centimeters. And you have to take into account that the half fisherman's rib is going to stretch quite a lot, both in the width and in the length. So make sure that when you pick the yarn for this garment, it's not like superwash merino or not so flexible merino overall. The yarn that she is using for the pattern is 100% cotton, which is Gozal Mat or Mate. So I wouldn't use that yarn because it's 100% cotton and I don't really like cotton, and I would knit this garment as a winter or spring garment anyways. So I would pick a Knitting for Olive heavy merino, which is going to of course stretch as well because it's merino and it's half fisherman's rib, but it's not going to stretch like crazy. The whole thing is knitted bottom up. You start in the round and you knit to the armholes, then you divide the whole garment for the front and for the back, then you knit the front panel, shaping also the armhole and already separating for the zip line. So then you're going to knit separately left side and then separately right side, probably also doing some short rows for the shoulder slope, but it doesn't say in the pattern if that's true, but I assume so. After that, you're going to also knit the back yoke. You're going to continue knitting up when you stopped at the back, right? Shaping the armholes and also shaping the neck depth at the back. So when you're done, you're going to seam up the shoulder seams. You will be then picking up stitches for the neck and knitting it all the way up, double folding it. It looks quite neat, quite amazing. I love it a lot. Well, right after you finish with the neck, you're doing the zipper installation and you're doing some finishing on the armholes. So I want to say that this pattern is not so clear in English, right? I think she did use a Google Translate. I don't know about recently released patterns, maybe they're a bit more clear, but I wouldn't recommend this pattern to a beginner if you're pure English speaker. I would recommend this pattern to people who knitted quite a few garments before, so you're not so confused, right? And especially would be nice if you knitted something similar before. The construction itself is quite simple, and I do believe that it's possible to knit just following the instruction, but just for you to say that the wording is a little bit confusing for the English speakers, and to assume what she means by certain words, you need to have some experience at your background. But still, she's one of my favorite Ukrainian designers, and the amount of work she's putting in her constructions and everything is gigantic, so she does deserve some attention. I just want to be honest and clear about what I see in the description. The next item is from the Ukrainian woman that lives in the US, and her patterns have all of the technical editing and she knits completely size inclusively. So her patterns are extremely clear in English. The designer's name is Ksenia Naidyon, and the pattern that I love a lot from her is Hold Me Close top. It is literally a heartwarming piece. It is a top that is like a wrapped top that is literally warming your soul. It could be a very nice summer piece and also a winter piece. If it's a winter piece, it could be super suitable at home. I would love to knit this piece for my house. It could be also a beautiful piece for the wedding, either your wedding or when you visit someone's wedding. And also it could be just a top layer over the dress, so you can fix the top when it's crossing in front of the chest and just wear it over pure skin. The yarn composition is quite interesting. She picked 100% linen and silk mohair as an additional thread. So in my case, I would still go for the wool, because if you're having mohair, linen is not then warm enough to be a part of that silk mohair. And if it's really hot summer, then mohair is going to make me itchy or sweaty in summer. So I don't think they're really well combined together. So in my case, I would use something in between. By the way, the brand she's recommending is Shibai Knits, which is now called Madeline Tosh. The yarn that is mentioned is already discontinued, but I imagine Madeline Tosh has created an alternative to that if you want to check out and if you want to go with the recommended yarn. I would use BC Garn Bio Balance, which is a 50% cotton and 50% merino wool, and silk mohair. My favorite mohair for today is easier silk mohair if we speak about traditional metrage, but in her pattern she's using a thicker mohair, which is 175 meters per 25 grams. So such mohair could be Lank Mohair Luxe, which is a quite thick, super fluffy mohair that I think it's really, really soft. I tried some of the Lang mohairs in the yarn shops, and actually I'm dreaming to knit a whole garment in this specific mohair. The whole garment is knitted on 4mm needles. The gauge is 22 stitches per 10 centimeters in stockinette and 22 stitches per 10 centimeters in slip stitch pattern. So now let's pick the construction. The construction is quite interesting. I've never knitted anything before like that. You need two different pieces flat, bottom up. So basically you need these two front panels that start from the bottom all the way up, crossing your shoulders, and then connecting in the back. So when you reach the point when you're going to connect things in the back, you're going to then start decreasing, probably already knitting an entire piece together and creating that line, that is diagonal line that is imitating the line in the front. So when you're done with the back piece, you're then doing some type of ribbing, and then she's saying that you're seaming up the sides of the top. I don't know anything about this tie. I guess you're just knitting it separately and then tie around your waist. It's just my assumption. Another assumption is just that it's knitted in double knitting. It looks super cute, super amazing. The construction looks really simple to knit, just knitting two panels, following some increases, some short rows, and then you're seaming things up together, knitting the tie, and you're having a very beautiful garment. The next sweater is Lada Sweater by Liudmyla Babintseva. This is a very recently released pattern in November 2024. When she released it, I really, really love that. I want to point out something very good about this designer, that she's using very clear description in English, which is very similar to Petite Knit's description style. Mostly, why do we love Petite Knit? Because she's making complicated things very clear and available to us. And at least from what I see in the description, it should be very nice, clean pattern that should be nicely edited. This sweater has this very cute small v-neck over here. Usually I don't like v-necks that are very small, but here it looks amazing. And then the whole body is oversized and you have sleeves that are increasing a little bit. So the sleeves have this kind of a bell shape. What I also love is this very gentle small stitch pattern. It is very small structure that grabs your attention just a little bit without taking all of your attention from the sweater itself. The yarn mentioned is a worsted weight yarn, which is a Sport Plus lace. In this case, she's using Zitron Lifestyle, which is around 155 meters per 50 grams, plus La.Na.Knit Satisuri, which is a Suri alpaca plus silk blend. Zitron Lifestyle is a German brand, so it is available in Europe and probably worldwide. But to be honest, when I looked at the spun of this yarn, I realized that it's something I really don't like. And this is a similar spun to Schachenmeyer Merino that I tried before, and I really don't like how it behaves in the garment. So I think I would use something else. I would use BC Garn Semilla Pura or Semilla Melange. Is the same yarn, but Semilla Pura is undyed version of it. It's just a mix of different fibers from a natural color of the sheep. And Semilla Melange is the same yarn, but it's dyed already. And then I would use Satisuri from La.Na.Knit, which is amazing, completely non-scratchy option to the mohair. By the way, I created a whole entire video on mohair substitutes. If you can't tolerate mohair or you're just wanting to try different fibers to have some fun, you can watch this entire video on my channel. One more time, I would use Semilla Pura from BC Garn and La.Na.Knit Satisuri combined together. That hopefully will create me a worsted weight. The gauge is 18 stitches per 10 centimeters in pattern, and the needle size is used is 4 millimeters. A very beautiful, elegant, super cozy piece for the winter that would be completely timeless in my wardrobe if I were to knit that. Next one is Christmas Star by Natalia Aksyonova, the designer that I mentioned in the first place. This is, I would say, a blouse version of the sweater number 15. You know, this very famous sweater number 15 with the braids that a lot of people enjoyed knitting and have in their wardrobe. This is like a thicker braids with very breathable, super lightweight fabric that looks like a blouse. So it's something between blouse that I'm wearing right now and the sweater itself. The yarn that is used is a simple mohair thread and the lace weight yarn. She's using an Italian yarn on cone, which is Lane Cardate Canberra, which is 1,500 meters per 100 grams. She's holding this double, and then as a third thread, she's using a traditional mohair. In this case, it's La.Na.Knit silk silk mohair. So since Italian yarn and cone is very unknown and sometimes even unavailable yarn for a lot of knitters, I would suggest, and I would use myself, a Lang merino lace. I've never tried that yarn before, but I love Lang yarns so much that I would use that one. And as a silk mohair, I would use traditionally Isair silk mohair because it's very safe and soft for me. So you're not going to need a lot of yarn because this garment has a very open gauge and it's knit on 5mm needles. So I think if you want, you can go also for a little bit more luxurious options. So also I want to mention that when I look at the Ravelry page, I can see in needle size section a lot of different sizes. I don't know why. This could be due to the fact that she's using different sizes while knitting the ribbing. A lot of designers like to decrease needle size as they're knitting the ribbing so it doesn't flare out with time, which makes sense for this garment because it's knit with a very open gauge, so you need to be really careful making sure the garment looks very nice within years. So let's speak about the construction. It is very similar to the style that Japanese and Korean designers like, where you start at the back yoke, then you do the short rows back and forth while doing the shoulder slope. Then you pick up stitches for the right shoulder and knitting it front while doing increases for the neckline as well. You're doing the same for the left side. You connect at the neckline and you're knitting the front yoke down to the armholes. Then you connect it with the back yoke as well. Knit everything in the round already down, doing the ribbing in the bottom, picking up stitches for the sleeve, doing some short rows for the sleeve cup, and knitting everything down, finishing with the ribbing as well. So quite famous construction worldwide. Most of the people, we know how to knit that. I specifically love this item in this very pale pink blush color. I would knit this myself. As you can see, I really love such colors, and I have the entire cardigan also with open gauge and this fluffy texture in my wardrobe. So to be honest, I'm really looking forward to knit it one day. The next one is Sweet Cuddles Cardigan by Natalia Pelykh. It is a very intricate long cardigan that will take quite a lot of time, but look at this, it's completely worth it. It is knit on 3.5mm needles with a DK yarn. On the pictures, it is presented as a very huge oversized cardigan. While it looks very cozy and roomy, to be honest, I'm not such a fan of huge things on myself. And I saw some ready projects on Ravelry that are way more fitted. That still has some room, you know, some positive ease, but it's a bit more fitted and way more practical in my opinion. The cardigan itself looks insane. You have thick braids, you have small braids, you have honeycomb stitch, you have some other little intricate details. Since you have a lot of intricate details in the pattern, maybe it's nice to leave it clear, choose some neutral light color to show up all of the work that we're going to be making if we're deciding to knit this pattern. The yarn weight is a traditional DK weight, which is 125 meters per 50 grams. The designer is using Mondial Superwool, which is an Italian yarn available in Europe and probably worldwide. This is a superwash yarn that she was using, and the texture of it is very smooth, a bit shiny. I don't like so much superwash yarns, and I don't like how much it grows, not only after the first blocking, but also over time. So in my case, I have two options to replace this yarn. The first one, I would use maybe Sadness Garn 10 per Ghent, held together with some of the alpaca threads. Either again from Sadness Garn, they have alpaca feuilletra, or maybe another lace alpaca from Kremke Soul Wool. It is very soft alpaca that I really want to try. So that would give me this little fuzz on the fabric, but not so much fluffiness. And that would be a really nice fabric. And since this garment will require tons of effort and time, I think it would make sense to pick some special yarn for this project. The gauge is 28 stitches per 10 centimeters in the main stitch patterns, and again I'll repeat that is knitted on 3.5mm needles, all of these cables. The structure of the garment is the following. You start at the back, casting on stitches for the neck, then doing short rows increasing for the shoulder slope, creating this trapezoid shape. When you're done with the back yoke, you're then picking up stitches for the right front, knitting it down, already increasing for the front v-neck. You're doing the same for the left side. And when you're done here down to the armholes, you're connecting things with the back yoke and you're knitting the whole cardigan flat down to desired length. After that, you're picking up stitches for the sleeves. You're doing some short rows to shape the sleeve cap. Amazing. And knitting sleeves down, finishing up with the ribbing. The button band is then knitted in the ribbing. You pick up stitches and you knit it towards the center and you attach the buttons. She does release her design in sizes available for kids and adults. You can knit it for your baby, for yourself, for your husband, for anyone. I saw someone knitted this cardigan for the baby and oh my god, it looks so cute. It is so beautiful. I would definitely need it for my baby if I would have one. It looks amazing. So I would trust this designer. I would risk knitting such complicated design from her. She's quite famous in our Ukrainian knitting community, and her English description looks incredibly clear, probably also technically edited. So I would of course suggest you knitting this wonderful cardigan for yourself, definitely worth all of the needed effort. And the last design for today is Surzhik Pullover by Olena Sitalkina, my favorite designer from Ukraine, and I guess overall my favorite designer when it comes to construction. She puts so much effort into creating the best fitting construction ever, and she is using only one type of construction in all of her patterns. She basically mastered it, and she creates very minimalistic designs, like no cables, no lace, nothing. She's only focusing on the best fitting constructions, and her designs are extremely wearable and extremely useful in the basic everyday wardrobe. So the design I want to speak today is Surzhik Pullover, which is a very beautiful v-neck blouse, I would say. You can knit it as a blouse, for example, like I have a blouse from Just Silk Mohair, or you can knit it with a bit more dense yarn and create a basic warm piece in your wardrobe. Also, some of the knitters from her test group created a ribbing v-neck, which looked quite beautiful as well. In the original sample, she is doing folded over finishing, which looks amazing, and she does include video tutorials for her patterns. They're also available on YouTube for free for everyone's access. Regarding the construction, it is a top-down contiguous shoulder construction where you start at the back and then you continue knitting the shoulders while at the same time increasing both for the front fabric and for the back. And in this case, it's very interesting because the front line looks like a normal contiguous shoulder that we're all used to, and the back line looks like a raglan line. So when you look at the back of the piece, you see like these two raglan lines, and in the front you see horizontal straight contiguous shoulder lines, which I find insane. So after you're done knitting the contiguous shoulder, you're then starting to knit the sleeve and the body at the same time. You then keep on knitting back and forth while already increasing for the sleeve, doing the increases inside to the sleeve, and already increasing for the front line over here, right? Creating the v-neck. So you're knitting flat back and forth, and then when you're reaching this point, you're then connecting things in the round, separating the sleeves away from the body, and knitting the tube down to desired length. And then you pick up stitches for the sleeves, knitting them down, and then doing the finishing of the v-neck the way you want, or the way she intended. In her design, she is presenting 3 gauges available to choose from. Imagine, like, what a luxury. She is giving you the choice to knit with 25 stitch gauge, 26 stitch gauge, or 27 stitch gauge. And then you find the needle size that is going to fit the gauge that you're achieving. Good amount of sizes. This designer gives you the file to download your specific size with your numbers. This is insane. Like how much work was done to create everything that she does. So you cannot buy this pattern from Ravelry. You should go to her website and purchase it. There are a few payment options available, including PayPal, so it's quite safe. The yarn options are mostly Italian yarn and cone, which I know is not so much available to a lot of people, or some people are just afraid to knit with such yarn, which I understand completely. So the yarn that I would suggest and use is a Knitting for Olive Merino, which is a light fingering weight, plus a very thin mohair. So not the traditional meter of mohair that is usually 212 meters per 25 grams, but a way thinner version. So the very thin mohairs that I would use is Lang 21 or Pascali mohair, or the mohair from La.Na.Knit Premia. They're very thin, there is a lot of meterage per 25 grams, and with such mohair it's going to be way easier to obtain the gauge. They're also very soft towards the skin, way softer than most mohairs on the market. The last 2 things I want to mention about this design is first, the increases for the v-neck are kind of crossing each other. That creates like a beautiful separate element of the design itself. I never did such increases, I would love to try them. They look beautiful. And the second thing is that it has bust shaping, so you have more fabric for the female bust, which is very much appreciated. Well, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed my very much detailed review of Ukrainian patterns available in English. Please let me know which design did you like, and maybe some of them you're already thinking to cast on. I would be very interested to read such comments. Overall, I'm wishing you a lot of joy and inspiration during this next knitting year. Thank you very much for watching again, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video.